Hello, everyone. The following is a review of the information relating to engineering notebook documentation according to the Project Lead the Way standards. In this presentation, we're going to talk about what is an engineering notebook and why it's important for people to learn how to keep one, specifically who keeps an engineering notebook, and then what kind of things are you going to find in there? What kind of things are you going to put into your own engineering notebook? We're going to then look at those different sections in greater detail, talk about standard page layout, some of the best practices, and at the end of this presentation, there are a few slides that include some historical examples. So starting off with what is an engineering notebook? Well, it is a book in which an engineer will formally document in chronological order all of their work that is associated with a specific design project. And so in there, it's going to be clear and detailed descriptions of that design and of the design process. To the point where somebody who is unfamiliar with this work should be able to take over the project just by reading your engineering notebook and kind of figuring out where you had left off. And why do you keep an engineering notebook? Well, it is most important because it is recognized as a legal document and that can be used to get patents. It's also to prove the origin of an idea that led to a solution, prove when events or ideas have occurred, prove diligence in turning the idea into a solution, and then also prove when the idea became a working solution. So who uses an engineering notebook? Well, engineers who work on research and development projects, and of course, engineering students such as yourselves learning how to go through that process on your own. Now, in your notebook, you'll have things that relate to discovering what you think your problems are that you want to solve. So some of the brainstorming that goes into coming up with different ideas. And then any research related to your project, sketches with labels and descriptions, again, brainstorming lists and calculations, any of your daily thoughts or ideas or work that you put into a project would go in here, pictures and videos, links to videos, QR codes, things like that. Expert input, so if you talk to anybody outside of the classroom, experts in the field, talk to anybody from a particular company and they helped you come up with a design piece, you want to put that in your notebook. Any work sessions and meeting summaries, testing procedures and results, conclusions, any of your technical drawings, and then of course design modifications. So basically everything that you do or think related to a specific design project would go in your notebook. Okay, so now some housekeeping type things here. The different notebook sections that you're going to have. There'll be a title page. You'll have a table of contents, which will be in chronological order. You'll then have references at the back end of your notebook, and then a business expert context that you come across throughout your work. The standard page layout, you'll have a grid pattern on your notebook pages already. And then from there, all your pages will be numbered and you'll have to go in and date them as you complete them and fill them out. And then at the very bottom of each page, very important that you'll sign each page as the designer. You're also going to have a witness sign for you as well. So that witness can be somebody who's sitting next to you while you were working on this stuff. It could be somebody at home. It could be the teacher in the classroom. It just needs to be somebody who can corroborate the fact that you did this work right here on this page. All right, and then here's an example of what that would look like. Very clean, very organized, bulleted list there. You see tables are nicely drawn. So you want to try to be as legible as possible when filling out your notebooks and have things nicely organized. It is also important to say that all work is done in pen. That is because pencil can be erased and we don't want that. We don't want your ideas to be messed with if you were to leave your notebook somewhere or somebody were to find it and try to steal your ideas, for an example. We do not want to have that be erasable or removable in an easy fashion. So that's why we say all work is done in pen, including sketches to that point. Markers, no bueno, because that'll bleed through the paper. We try to stay away from that. Pages are sequentially numbered in ink already for you, so that's good to go. And then the notebooks are bound, meaning you cannot add pages and you cannot remove pages. We're not going to treat our notebooks like a folder and put a bunch of handouts in there. If you need something else to organize your pages, please get one and bring that to class. But for your notebook's sake, again, cannot remove pages, cannot add pages. That will mess with the legality of your notebook. All right, and then of course just some basic stuff, starting your entries at the top of the page, work from top to bottom, left to right, and try not to leave any blank space. If there is a blank space at the bottom of a page, you're done with the entry. There's nothing else related to that idea that can fit in this space. What we want you to do is draw a diagonal line from left to right here, and then sign your name across that line. Very important to sign it, basically saying, I'm taking up the rest of the space. There's nothing else that's going to go here. And here's my signature stating my claim to that. If you ever make a mistake, just go ahead and cross it off, initial it right next to it, write the word that you meant to put down, or what if it was a sketch, fix that part of the sketch, whatever it was. Again, we're not erasing, we're not removing any content. We never want to remove anything, even if it's a mistake or if it's wrong or if it's something you don't end up using, it stays in the notebook as is. You will then date each entry as you go, and of course put dates at the bottom of each page next to your signatures. And then right here, this is also a very important part of the process. You'll see the signature stamp come into play here, kind of toggle that back and forth as I'm talking. When you are going to insert pages into your engineering notebook, whether that be from the internet or a piece of paper that you sketch something out on, if you're going to insert it into your notebook, you have to, first of all, tape it in on four corners. We're not going to use glue or anything like that. We don't want it floating around loosely either, so we want to secure it down to the page. And then you must sign your name across it in such a way that half your signature is on the notebook paper and half your signature is on the inserted piece of paper. And again, if you could try to work that over the tape too, even better. The reason for that is if that piece of paper were to come out or if it were to be removed for some reason, there would be a portion of your signature still left on the notebook. And that would then help indicate that something was here and it's no longer there. All right. And so it also tells us who put it there, right? Why is this piece of paper inserted? Why was this picture printed off and inserted? Why was this sketch made on isometric paper and then inserted here into the notebook? Well, this person went and did it. And of course, you put a little description next to it for any and all of your work. So very important. That's one of the things that students tend to mix up at the beginning when they're getting used to making their notebook entries. So try to remember that as you're moving forward. And then again, sign and date each page before you move on to the next one. A colleague or a mentor should corroborate the events and facts on each of the page and sign as a witness. That can be somebody next to you, the teacher in the room, somebody at home. If you're working at the library, somebody there, it really doesn't matter who, just somebody who can agree to the fact that, yes, I witnessed that you did this work. Right. And of course, keep your notebook in a safe location. Try not to let the corners get bent up as you're working it in and out of your backpack or your lockers throughout the year. Try to keep that thing in good condition throughout the year. Any sketches that you create in your notebooks, you want to make sure you label them and put little descriptions next to them. Just kind of helps bring more meaning to what we're looking at there. Any calculations or figures are clearly labeled. You can have nice organization with this, and it'll definitely help in the long run. So think about being clear and legible as you're creating your entries. This one just talks about progress entries and reflecting on any all the tasks that you complete or the steps of the design process. You can put little reflections in there as you go. Of course, be neat, be accurate, be legible, and be thorough when creating your entries. Here you see some historical examples. This one is from Earl Silas Tuppers, the gentleman who actually created Tupperware. This was one of his patents and sketches for the paint pot, which was back in 1939. Here you see an example for Everett Huckle Bickley's original design notes for an electromechanical fly catcher. This was in 1943. Mr. Bickley developed dozens of inventions. His most lucrative invention was a bean sorting machine that separated good beans from bad ones. And then another one here, Howard Heeds, 1914 to 1991. This was the original design for an oversized tennis racket. That was from 1974. The larger racket was more durable, and the sweet spot was larger than a traditional racket. So what I want to do is just take a moment here and switch over to my second tab to look at with you an example for the first activity that you're going to put into your engineering notebook, which is activity 1.2, concept sketching. So at the beginning of your entry, I know this is a Google Doc here, but try to realize that this is what you'll be filling out into your physical paperback notebook. And you're going to start with by including a title for the activity. So activity 1.2, concept sketching, write that across the top in the middle. Next, you'll write out an introduction for the activity and include the details on what will be included in that notebook entry. So that can be retrieved from the opening statement on the activity document itself. This should only be about a paragraph long. We're not looking for anything longer than that. Okay, so from there, you'll be asked to create 6 different front view sketches, and you have a choice. You can either create those sketches right in your notebook and start drawing them out there, or if you would prefer to draw them on separate sheets of paper because you're worried about having maybe too many mistakes and don't want them all in your notebook, that's fine. You can do them on separate sheets of paper, cut them out when you're done, and insert them here into the notebook. So I've shown an example of that 3 different ways, 3 different sketches that were done, let's say on a different sheet of paper and then inserted here into the notebook. And then of course, putting that signature stamp half on and half off so that you can see portions of it on both sheets of paper. So signature stamp, anything that you insert into your notebook. But again, for this activity, you folks all have regular quad ruled graph paper in your notebooks this year. And so if you prefer just to sketch right in there and create your sketches on the notebook, you wouldn't need to think about any signature stamps at this current point in time. At the bottom of every page, you'll make sure that you put your name as the designer and then somebody who witnessed you, date that information as well. And then on page 2, you'll have 6 sketches. I only showed 3 examples here, but on page 2 of my example, I went ahead and added the 4 conclusion questions. So for the majority of our activities, we will have conclusion questions, just something for you to reflect on. There's really no right or wrong answer to these. And so with that, I filled out the top half of my page. I also included a title again for the second page. Title goes on every single page. I called it Activity 1.2 Concept Continued. And then at the bottom here, there's an example of open space that I wasn't going to fill for this activity. So I added a diagonal line. My signature went across that. And at the end of that page, again, put my name, put a witness by name, and then we have our dates here for that as well. All right, so that's just an example of activity 1.2, concept sketching. Hopefully you have some fun with this one, and I look forward to seeing your sketches. Thanks for watching, everybody.